My next guest is the president of Accuracy in Media, Adam Guillette. Thank you so much for coming back on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you're going to tell me that despite conservatives being ever more active in government-run education, school boards, you name it, Republican governors saying no CRT, no porn in the classroom, that school districts all across the country are basically saying, screw you, we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality. You know, I've been in over 250 school districts across the country, and we don't go to Berkeley, we don't go to Boulder, we go to red towns and red communities and red states. And what we find again and again is that these pros, these administrators, find any way they can to push all of the radical principles associated with critical race theory into every facet of public education.
You know, so last night on the program, we had Ryan Walters, the Oklahoma State Superintendent. He was a former Secretary of Education, teacher himself. And we were going over how a school in Oklahoma City just made a drag queen the principal of an elementary school, and the assistant principal's also a drag queen. And I was like, I live in New Jersey. This is not happening where I live in Morris County, New Jersey. This is happening where you are in the red state of Oklahoma. So it's got to be that a lot of people that live in small towns and conservative Republican communities just think, well, I live here. This is kind of what the town is. I guess I don't have to worry.
That's exactly what it is. It's like how people view Congress. Congress as a whole, incredibly unpopular. But like 98% get reelected because everyone wants to believe theirs is the good one. Same thing with public education. Everybody meets with their school's administrator and principal and teacher, and they seem like nice people. Well, I meet with them too, but I do it with hidden cameras, and they brag to me about how they lie to you.
And that's the thing. I tell people all the time, you have every right to make an appointment. I don't want anyone getting out of line, getting themselves in trouble, being disruptive. But you know what? You have a right to go to your kid's school. Walk around. See what's on the walls. See what the teachers are putting up in the classroom. Because I think we learned a lot during the lockdowns that maybe if, certain teachers know it's parents' night, they're not going to have their Che Guevara, poster or their pride flag or whatever it is. They're going to take that stuff down and say, your child is smart and popular and everyone likes them. Next. Right? That you have to see what's going on in the classroom live time. And because of the lockdowns, people got a dose of reality.
That's it. And what we're seeing now is that the school districts have caught on to the fact that the parents have caught on. Some school districts are now requiring you to sign an NDA if you want to look at the course materials. I went to Fort Worth ISD. This is Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth ISD is one of 22 school districts in the presumably red town of Fort Worth, Texas. Well, what do we find there? They have a dozen full-time, non-classroom position equity officers, most of them getting paid more than six-figure salaries. And if you go in the building, they have gatekeepers up front, but the equity team has a second layer of security. They have their own gatekeepers that just they have. It's like Fort Worth, or Fort Knox in Fort Worth, if you want to talk to the CRT factory there.
This is what parents have to make themselves. I don't care who you are. This stuff is not preparing your kid for success in life. Okay, this is not something that is going to prepare. Now, maybe with as left as college admissions boards could be, maybe there's a tinge. But in reality, teaching your kids how to organize a protest or lies about the founding of the country, or, when you separate the society into if you're white, you've accomplished nothing, you have privilege. If you're non-white, you've accomplished nothing, you're only getting where you're going because of an activist government. That's a horrible way to raise children, to believe that individually they are nothing. They are either the recipient of privilege or that they're a victim. And I don't know how that breeds or builds any kind of unity. Right? It doesn't teach children to grow up in an environment where, if I'm different from you, that's okay. Let's be friends. It breeds animosity. It breeds hatred. It breeds discord and disunity. And it doesn't teach the children the truth. I've said in my radio program, there's two cultures that we have right now. There's the culture of the founding, liberty, independence, freedom, a healthy dose of skepticism of government, limited government. And then there's an anti-founding culture, which is basically Marxist.
That's it. And, we all know about the 1619 Project from the New York Times, the incredibly inaccurate, even left-wing historians pointed out how inaccurate it is, the notion that we fought the American Revolution to preserve slavery. Well, as a result, a number of states have banned the 1619 Project. Well, what do these administrators do? They sign up for a classroom news service called Newsella, which partners with the Southern Poverty Law Center, Marxist historian Howard Zinn, and the 1619 Project. So your kid comes home with a homework assignment, it says Newsella on it, you're none the wiser, but it's literally the same content.
Oh, look, when they say, well, why don't you want to teach history? Please, by all means, teach history. No, nobody's, to listen to some of these people you think would go, what's this slavery thing you're talking about? What? I never heard of that. Yes. Teach all of the good, and yes, teach all of the bad, and teach the Democratic Party's participation in it. Teach how they were the segregationists. They fought the 64 civil rights legislation. That after the Civil War, almost every single freed slave became a Republican. Teach the truth, good and bad, and the parties and their relationship and role in it.
Yeah, and I teach how gun control laws, their infancy, their birth was to take guns away from newly freed slaves. That's where your gun control came from. I tell these people, I'll compromise. You can have history. Teach whatever you want in history. But can we keep the CRT out of math class? Because literally it's in every facet of public education, including math class. That's how embedded it is.
The other sad thing is, look, college is a different ball game. But if students come to class armed with facts that run afoul of what's being taught, this is the fear that most parents have. You're going to fail my kid, right? That's how indoctrination works, that the teacher stands before the class as an authority figure. If the teacher says the United States was founded to preserve slavery, if you write a report that contradicts that, you might get a failing grade.
That's unquestionably true. I dealt with it in college. Every college kid, every conservative or libertarian has to deal with that. But I'll tell you, these days, the students are worse than the professors. The students are further left and more radical than the professors. They're getting it from the culture, and they're going further than the professors even dreamed of. The things that we saw, like at Stanford Law, where they shouted down a federal judge and shouted things like, "I hope your daughters get raped." That's morally outrageous. And our side goes after the administrators and professors. We need to spend more time going after the actual badly behaving students. They're the real troublemakers, and they face no consequences for their actions.
It doesn't matter what grade level you are. If you write a report, if you make an argument, you should be judged on your ability to write that report and make that argument, not whether or not the teacher or the professor agrees with it. I got to leave it there. Thank you for joining us.